Every now and then, a car manufacturer will come out with something so desirable that you will abandon all reason to own it. You start out making the right choice and throw it all away. You end up driving a Koenigsegg 1-to-1 as your daily driver. As awesome as that might sound, your daily commute to work or even to the shopping mart, now that might not be as fun as it sounds, but maybe it is. Here we take a look at what it may be like to drive a Subaru WRX STi on a daily basis. Before we say anything negative, let's go over some of the finer points of ownership. Being a factory-tuned vehicle is what makes these things so appealing in the first place. You can take these off the showroom floor. You can take these off-road almost anywhere, ice, snow, and gravel. The only real worry being ground clearance. Subarus in general are very reliable and have high resale value and high mileage vehicles on the road still today. You get to wave to other Subaru drivers who seem to share a love for their Subarus. It's the closest thing you can get to driving a real rally car on the road. The 6 Subaru stars represent the Pleiades constellation. It may attract attention, positive and negative. If you're stock, you may want to protect your gold BBS from theft with some Subaru wheel locks. You can bring a lightly modified STi to your local rallycross and almost beat real rally cars. With the right exhaust, they sound wonderful. You get that Subaru rumble from the unequal length header. Styling-wise, even the 2004s still hold up today. The 2.5-liter motors are still in production today in 2016. The interior is all about business. It's all about driving. There's no funny stuff going on in here. This is what you get. But you usually don't get into a car, even if it has a nice interior. You get in it, you look around. Oh man, this is awesome, really cool. Okay, well let's turn on the key and drive. And then you kind of forget about what's around you. So at least this surrounds you with a cohesive theme. And that theme is, who gives a crap about the interior? We're here to drive. And that's why they have this awesome Momo steering wheel. It's Momo, but just STI. They put their insignia on it because they put their insignia on everything on this car. The shifter is nice. You're going to love the shifter. You're not going to get tired driving this day to day. There's a manual intercooler water sprayer button fed from a tank in the trunk that sprays the top mount intercooler. The manual headlight aimer keeps the factory HIDs from blinding people. Seating position's not bad at all. You have plenty of room. It's not the best bolstering thing, especially me. I mean, you can see I'm not the biggest guy. But it hugs me just a little on the sides, but you'd expect it to do more. I know a lot of people have complained about the seat, but it works. And the seating position it's a decent driving position. It is a little high up. There is a little bit of space under the seat where the seat can go down a little more if they had the right bracket. But of course, from the factory, you're sitting a little higher up, even with it fully down. Now, adjustability wise, we have back and forth, of course, and the seat cushion on the bottom goes up and goes down. So I have it furthest down, of course. The pedals are perfectly spaced for heel-toe shifting. Most of the modifications and maintenance can be done by any DIYer with an average skill set and some basic metric hand tools. It all depends on what level of modifications you want to maintain the car at as a daily driver. My STi is lightly modified with some bolt-ons, some suspension bits, and a couple driveline parts. To see all those, you can go check my other video. The exhaust note is a Turbo XS axle back. The aftermarket is so huge for this car. If you don't like the way it drives in some way, if you don't like how stiff the suspension is, you can make it softer, or you can make your exhaust louder or quieter if you wanted to. Up there quick. It's powerful, and you really feel that power. It's a little heavy. It's above 3,000 pounds, just above 3,000 pounds, fully wet with you in it. But it scoots it pretty darn quick. The acceleration from a standpoint was one of the selling points. All-wheel drive, driving it in any type of condition, and being able to handle and still be a sports car and having all that power under your foot, it really gets addicting. If you really didn't know it, if you're driving it without being on the turbo, if you're not getting on it, because it is a daily driver, you're going to drive it to work, you're going to be driving to the grocery store, to the movies, you're not going to be romping on the thing the whole entire time. It feels great on the street. Yes, it's a little tight because the suspension is stiff. That is the one complaint. But it's definitely not jarring. It's not rock hard. You can always change out different things. If you don't like how it understeers, because it is an all-wheel drive car, it's going to inherently understeer, you can put a thicker rear sway bar on. So there's things you can do. Don't forget that. So your driving experience is going to be different for how you want to set up your car. Now, clutch is another issue. That's going to be something else you want to look at. The clutch I went with was Exiti's upgrade. It's not Exiti's Stage 1, but it's their OEM upgrade. And it's nice. I love it. The pedal feels great. It grabs right. And because I'm just staying with Stage 1, it's good for 400 wheel torque when it's new. So as you upgrade your clutch in stages, the pedal feel is going to be harder and harder to push the clutch down and keep it down. Reliability wise, it's excellent. You just got to remember, it is a turbo car. So a couple things, you don't want to just start the car up in the morning on a cold morning and get in the thing and full boost it right away through all the gears. What that does is the turbo's cold and the bearings are cold in the turbo, and all of a sudden you're heating them up, and what happens is they could crack and your seals could go, and then you'll start blowing smoke every time you hit boost out of your exhaust. You'll blow like a white smoke out. Before it's fully warmed up, I wouldn't shift anywhere above like 3,500. And then once it's warmed up, then you can go nuts. Same thing with this, with the Fiesta. You got to watch out for that low speed pre-ignition. So again, one way to fight that is never go full throttle. Go like 3/4 throttle until you see 4,500 RPM. Then you can hit full throttle until the next shift. If you do that, you won't load the car up with a bunch of load, lug it, meaning 6th gear, 2,000 RPM, and you're gonna go for full boost. Then you might start detonation problems and knock problems, especially if you have the wrong fuel in. That's another thing, is having the correct fuel. Yes, you may not need to use an 87 on like a stock turbo car, but if you have a staged 1 turbo car, that tune and the mapping is looking for that grade of octane. So don't go below the grade if you have a performance tune on. Remember, performance tunes are extracting everything you can out of the engine. So you'd want that extra bit of knock protection, which is going to be the higher octane. When you're done with the turbo, say you were just out on the highway, and you were really getting on it and you come off and you're gonna shut the car right off, I wouldn't do that. I'd give it at least 30 to 60 seconds at idle for the bearings and the turbo to get back down to that idle temperature. Once that gets back down to its idle temperature, then you can shut the car off. You won't be shocking anything with, especially if it's extremely cold out and you come back and your compressor of your turbo is cherry red. You just don't want to switch that key off. You want to make sure everything gets back down. Make sure that that's not glowing red anymore. Then you can turn it off. Now, these are longevity, preventative maintenance. Engine-wise, yeah, you might get like a motor 1 in every 1,000, like the Ringlands go or something. That stuff's gonna happen. They were having a problem with it. But everything else, just do what it says. Change that coolant out. That'll protect your head gasket. What happens is bad coolant over time keeps coming in contact with the head gasket, and it's actually, that bad coolant is corroding the head gasket. A lot of maintenance can be done DIY on this car with simple automotive tools and hand tools. Unless you're tearing the motor down, it doesn't require many specialty tools. Now, in my own opinion, I've found that over-modified cars require more maintenance. For daily driving, I find it's best to keep the maintenance at a minimum. Depending on your level of modification, your reliability might suffer, and you may not be able to maintenance the car by yourself anymore. One way to get under the car are ramps. Ramps are popular, and a WRX fits a ramp. Just take warning, the lowered ride height of the STi requires another ramp to get onto the ramp itself. Depending on where you live, how much salt, how much snow you get, if you get any at all, there's going to be corrosion and there's going to be rusted bolts. That's going to be your main enemy for DIY for any Subaru. Corroded exhaust and suspension bolts could be a problem. One well-known corrosion issue is the steel bolts get rusted and seized up inside the aluminum Brembo brake caliper. Braking will never be an issue. You got 4 piston Brembos up front and 2 piston Brembos in the rear with humongous dinner plate rotors. The hydraulic steering pump gives nice feedback from the road, but it is a little long in the steering rack, and you do have to saw at the wheel to go lock to lock sometimes. Miles per gallon is going to be another thing for you. On average, I'll see around 19 miles to the gallon around town. My best on the highway I've seen in 6th gear is 28 miles per gallon. I'm not saying it's not a great daily driver. I am, because there's so many things that are awesome about it. It's about your drive. It's about what drive you have to work in the morning. It's about the drive that, remember, this is daily driving. You're going to be driving this thing every day. There's the maintenance costs. We'll try and go over some of those and just give you a small readout maybe of some maintenance costs, what it would generally cost you for a clutch replacement, to have the timing belt done. Clutch installation is around $600. You can figure any good shop at $99 an hour for labor is going to charge you 5 hours for a clutch install. Depending on what clutch you buy, you can spend $1,000 on just the clutch itself, so take that into account as well. My local Subaru wanted $600 for a timing belt. I went with the Gates Racing one, which was $400 with the tensioners and $600 for the work.